2008, I left the fire service and sort of went full time with the business just as the recession hit. I remember sitting to midnight doing quotes, and it's just, that stuff's not sustainable. I've just got this drive when I work. I want to get the job done and get on to the next and on to the next, and people didn't work like that. And I had three or four guys working for me at the time. In fact, I had 4 guys. And I remember being in the office and the unit was empty at the time, and this sums up the difference in people. And I looked at the office and Greg was working away, tidying away the unit. That's what you want, eh? Whereas other 3 were standing watching him, and I'm like, come on boys, I give the boy a hand. But that particular guy, 2 weeks later, walked off a job. I'd asked him to do something particular on a job, done the exact opposite. I wasn't happy, obviously. Walked off the job, knew he was leaving me in the shit because he was the only one that had his commercial tickets. Dropped the van off at the unit with pretty much nothing in it. But there's times that I sat down with them, and one thing I always said to them is, look, the door's always open. If there's anything I could do for you, I'll do it. And I still maintain that. Life's hard, and life's hard for everybody. And if I was there to give them support, I would do it.
Hello and welcome back to the Built Different podcast with Stephen Pettigrew. Today we've got a really special guest on, Sean Brown. Sean's got a really successful plumbing and heating business based in Fife and Kirkcaldy, and I wanted Sean on to share his stories through business, mostly because he's been in business for 21 years, which is a massive achievement. Most people struggle to get past 1 year, let alone 5 years in business. And there's been a lot of setbacks, wins, successes that I wanted Sean to come on and share his story with. This episode is particularly interesting for small business owners, particularly in the trades sector, who are struggling with staff, with being able to get work, your reputation. Sean's been through all this stuff, he's came out the other side, and he's been super successful throughout the years. So tune in, I hope you take a bunch of value from this episode, and let's get back to Sean Brown. Sean, great to have you on the podcast. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. Got a wee bit of the cold. But apart from that, it's good. I'm fine.
Sure we can tidy that up with editing. Don't worry about that. So you're from Fife.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to bring you on the podcast today, so you've got a really successful business. And the reason I say that is you've been trading for over 21 years. Is that right?
Aye. I started the business on the back of me joining the fire service. So I joined the fire service in 2003. And November, done my training at Gullin, and then in November I decided that I was going to just start a business as a kind of sideline. But I registered it as a business then, and I started got myself an old transit van and
started for there.
Aye. And the rest is history, as I say, aye.
Yeah, I'm getting into all of that, which is why I wanted you on, because most people in business struggle to get past 1 year, 2 year, and eventually 5 years. It's very rare for a lot of people to start and get past 5 years, but you've actually been in business for a long time, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, wins, successes, setbacks, and all that sort of stuff, which we want to hear about, and the audience will want to hear about as well. But before we get into all that, let's go back a little bit, because you didn't just walk into business one day. Obviously, there was a building point to get to that stage. So what was life like for you as a kid coming through? Was there any kind of entrepreneurial traits that you had that you look back on now and you think that's kind of what kick-started my business journey?
We spoke about this yesterday.
You're allowed to say anything you want.
It's I don't know. It's that thing, I was... The old cliche, I was brought up in a council estate, but it wasn't, there wasn't any burning cars and, or anything like that in the area. It was a good area, there was good wee neighbours and a good wee cul-de-sac, and it was brilliant. I loved it. If I could go back, I would. I was always taught to save. My parents, they're old-fashioned. I'm still a bit old-fashioned when it comes to it. I still save quite a bit. So I always had money. And I always had savings. But I suppose one of the first things that came to mind yesterday, and it was, my brother was a bit of a toe rag, shall we say. And, he was dabbling with drugs at the times, and I remember lending him some money to buy drugs, to sell, kind of on my behalf, shall we say. And I got the kickback on that. So
I'm guessing this wasn't paracetamol.
no, it wasn't.
Okay.
Nothing too mental. Well, to a degree, but no. That was the kind of his life back then. That was the where he was, and I suppose maybe that is my entrepreneurial thing coming out back then. Is, you know, if I could, I used to lend people money as well. And I'd always get a wee bit extra back. So a bit of a loan shark when I was 15-year-old. But again, it's back to that thing. I always seen the value in money. I always never sort of wasted money. I always kind of saved, and I'm still like that. Yeah, I didn't waste money. Try no.
Good. So from an early age, you've started to buy, sell, lend some money. So you've started to get a bit of money, and you think, I want a bit more of this. Did you go straight into business once you left school at this point, or did you get a job, you know, more corporate job? I know you mentioned the fire service, but what did you do when you left school? And
I came through school, and I was, you know, I still say it, you know, I was pretty thick, and I wasn't academic. I still, and I can't say the word academic. I struggle even now. Even when I go and do redo my gas qualifications. I struggle to read. I struggle to concentrate. And again, when I think back, I was like that at school. I was thrown out of school about 9 times, and it was always, you know, just not paying attention. They tried to get me in another school at some point, and they wouldn't take me. But no, it was that thing back then. I started doing the milk when I was 12-year-old. And the day I finished the milk was the day I started my YTS scheme. I was fortunate that I knew a guy who he set his nephew up in business as a plumber, but Stuart was quite a young guy. He was only 21, and I don't think, you know, he was really at the age where he should have been running a business. But he took me on as an apprentice. Lasted about a year. Business folded, and I had already started college, so I continued to go to college, and fortunately I got taken on by another local company, and I loved it. I loved my apprenticeship. I just loved working. I loved getting dirty, and, you know, we were taking out local boilers back then and putting in gas boilers, and I loved working, and I was making money. But, you know, if I was asked to do overtime, I always done overtime. If I was asked to work weekends, I done it. I just you know, my parents were working class. Dad was a miner, my mum worked in a shop, and, you know, they done what they could for us. And don't get me wrong, we weren't struggling by any means, but I suppose I did want other things, and I wanted a nice car, and as I got older, you know, I wanted a nice house, and so that my work ethic came from my parents, and yeah, business kind of, I don't know, I never anticipated being in when I did set up the business after I joined the fire service. It was generally what I was going to do was give up the plumbing eventually. But 2008, I left the fire service and sort of went full time with the business just as the recession hit.
How was that then, starting in the recession? Was that good or bad? Or?
It was weird actually, because I'd actually just sold and got a house. Just moved in with a girl moved in with me, and it's another story. But yeah, so you know, I sold my house that was in, and I made a bit of money on it, because at that time it was, you know, between time it was 2003 to 2008, it was booming. So I sold my house, got a new house. Then the recession came, and back then I was busy. Yeah, you know, I was really busy. I had 3 vans on the road at that point, 3 guys working for me and 2 apprentices. But I didn't ken how to run a business, and I probably still didn't ken how to run a business. I'm always intrigued how people run businesses. But back then I was, you know, I've always been an early riser. You know, I was part of the 5 a.m. club before it was popular. So, you know, I was up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and be doing paperwork before I went to work. Be on the tools all day, you know, again going to see clients at the end of the day. And I remember sitting to midnight doing quotes, and it's just, that stuff's not sustainable. But I'm kind of, in a sense, repeating that now. But it's just, it isn't. Back then it wasn't sustainable, and I started feeling it. I felt it in myself, and I was a crabbit person. I wasn't easy to work with. that's gone back to even when I was no longer at my time. My apprentices hated me, because I've just got this drive when I work. I want to get the job done and get on and on to the next and on to the next. And people didn't work like that. And it kind of started to, he's one of the guys who worked for me, Dan. Dan was a big lad, and Dan was about 10 years older than me. And I think that was a bit of conflict with him as well. And he was self-employed, he lost everything and separated from his wife and things like that. And he was working for me. But I remember him one day saying, I fear you at times, because I was volatile. I've still got my moments. Still happens now and again.
You touched on an interesting point there, though, because when you set up in business as business owners, we've all got similar drives where we just want things done properly and as quickly as possible, and then move on to the next thing. And nothing's maybe not quite good enough, but you're always looking for the next thing, the next step. And your employees, quite often the staff, it's so common for them not to be on the same wavelength as you because they're not wired that way. And that sounds exactly what was happening through that early time. Is that right?
Through that period, it definitely was. And again, I've learned a lot. I have learned a lot the past 5 years. And I suppose the benefit of social media and being predominantly LinkedIn, you're watching what other guys are doing. And like I said, I got coaching for a period there, and I did learn a lot. And I think, as you say, because sort of 2012, I think it was, I was pretty much back to working myself again. And I think when I decided to give it another go, which was 2018, you're kind of, this has always been my baby. It's always been something that I've worked hard at. I had a good reputation. I still have got a good reputation, but you're giving a part of you away when you start employing people. And more so in the second time I'd done it, you're 2018, I got the unit in 2019, so that's when I decided I was going to open the showroom. And as you say, you do expect people to come in and have the same work ethic, have the same drive, the same goals, but I suppose if they have, they're working for themselves as well. And I found it hard kind of dealing with that. I started a guy who'd went and done one of these short courses, and Greg was a great guy. I recall when I got the unit, I had three or four guys working for me at the time. In fact, I had 4 guys. There was Greg, which was newly qualified in a sense, a tradesman, or 2 tradesmen, and an apprentice. And I remember being in the office and the unit was empty at the time, and this sums up the difference in people. And I looked at the office and Greg was working away, tidying away the unit, and to me the guy that's what you want. Whereas other 3 were standing watching him, and I'm like, come on boys, I get a boy a hand. And you should just naturally, to me, if somebody's working, you naturally work along with them. And Greg unfortunately left the business just before COVID. He came to us and the amount of times I say to him, he'd come to me, I can't do this, I'm struggling here. I'm like, just calm down, take your time, there's no pressure on you. And he went back to his previous occupation in the motor trade, but then he got back into the industry, and he's doing very well, and it's good to see. I was messaging him the other week there, and he's doing well. But I think coming into this time when I started employing guys, because we came through COVID, or 2020, we got into COVID. There was a few different guys came into the business, left the business, but then I got sort of my core guys sort of the middle of 2020. Started another guy in 2021. And these were experienced boys. But that's kind of where the problems came from, or started, I would say. And it was down to, I would say, probably down to one person in particular. But the amount of times I sat down with the guys and tried to tell them my vision and what I wanted for the business, and on the flip side of that, it's what I wanted for them as well. You want to create a business where people do want to come to work, where you're supporting them, where you're putting them on courses so their skill sets are getting better and better. But it has to be a two-way thing in a sense. And I kind of wasn't getting that. My first negative review came when I employed people, and I found it hard. And I found it hard managing people, because I'm a tradesman at the end of the day, and
nobody teaches this stuff at school, don't they? No, you need to kind of learn on the go.
No, it's even now if what do you do for a living? If I meet somebody, I'm a plumber. Right? That's it. You see on LinkedIn, everybody's got all these titles, and I'm just a plumber. Right? At the end of the day, I'm a plumber who's set up a business, and I've done all right. But again, nothing has been handed to me. It's just putting in the hours.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially nowadays, people my age and younger, think it's like get rich quick, just starting a business or buying a business, and that will just change your whole life. In reality, if you haven't started a business or ran a business as a figurehead, you don't know what you're doing until you're in it.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was young, obviously part of my family business, and I had a fantastic tutelage during that because I was learning a lot of stuff. But ultimately, I wasn't the owner. I was the operations director. When I left that business and started on my own, that's when I really learned, because starting a business from scratch, bootstrapping it with no resources, and similar to yourself, going from 0 to 100 is a completely different experience. Rather than being parachuted into a business or buying a business, and people glamorise this just now. It's so common in social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever, even TikTok now, for people to push these courses and say it's easy and I'm a millionaire and they've got a rented Ferrari behind them and it's not theirs, but people are buying into this stuff. But to run a business like yours for 21 years, it's not a straight line of growth. I'm pretty sure it was up and down constantly, but it's progressing.
It's you need kind of, it's that thing, you need the right people, and we're I'm back. Not that I mind. I enjoy being on the tools. As I say, I'm a tradesman. I got a lot of pleasure for it. I take a lot of pride in what I do, and it's good. Like say, again, the social media aspect of things, that you're seeing a lot of boys out there, and the work that they're doing is. Well, tradesmen get a bad rap, and I can understand why. And there is probably more bad ones out there than there are good ones, but. I've always struggled to learn in a classroom, so I'm probably learning more for seeing, because I just worked myself all the years pretty much, and you're not learning off anybody else. You get your apprenticeship, and when I came at my time, I was my journeyman. There was 4 journeymen at the place at the time, and they all kind of left, so I was the oldest guy there, at 21 year old. And yet, my boss, he was never on the tools when I started. But you just done what you could, and you always just try to maintain the standard there. Because I think if people are hiring you to come into their house to carry out work, you have to give them the best that you can give. And I'm very, very conscious of that even now. I hate seeing bad workmanship. I hate seeing bad attitudes. And I've experienced that I've been renovating my own house for the past couple of years, and it's absolutely frightening what guys think's acceptable.
Yeah. I was on your website recently, and so I've mentioned this at the start of the podcast, Sean Brown, Plumbing and Heating. So your name's all over the website, it's all over the van, so of course you've got a really vested interest in that, right? But on your website, the 3 key things on there that I noticed was you turn up when you say you're going to turn up, you leave a tidy site, and you do what you say you're going to do for a fair price. Now that puts you into like the top 1% of people straight away, because most people don't do that.
Again, it's that thing, and going back to we do that, but I've had, this is what it's funny because I was probably posting a lot more on social media. If I would go back sort of 3-4 years, I was probably posting a lot more on social media than I done in the last sort of the last maybe 2 years in a sense, because things weren't getting done how they should have been done. I was, possibly the wrong people in the business. I remember speaking to another guy who's got a showroom in Glasgow, and he says, you didn't shout, can you? He'd obviously noticed that I hadn't been posting as much, and he says, can you need to shout about the business? I says, but I can't. I'm not going to be false, because things aren't going right. Jobs aren't getting done to a certain standard, so I'm not going to post stuff saying that I'm this or I'm that, because they just weren't there. It
would feel right to you.
It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to me, and I think you have to. Well, me, I like to think I'm a genuine person, and I'm not going to portray someone that I'm not. But as I say, don't get me wrong, we're not doing bad jobs, and just probably know how. But again, these people, they were taking out the business, or taking it as soon as I knocked them off. But they were, they're sort of asked to
release back in the wild.
Basically.
I like that said. So going back a few years though, right, because we're kind of up to date with that, and we'll come back to this section. So when you started out in business, you didn't really have social media. Probably websites weren't as much of a thing back then either. How did you go about getting work? And was it
purely word of mouth?
Word of mouth.
It was just purely word of mouth. Again, nowadays you've got. It's funny. There's a Facebook page, Love Kirkcaldy, and I'm in a boiler fitted, and honestly, the amount of folk, the amount of one-man bands or businesses out there, and such a small area, it's bonkers. And I hate when somebody tags me in it, because I'm not going to go out and fight against these guys.
Is that because it's like a race to the bottom?
It is a race to the bottom. But you're coming with boiler swaps and things like that. To me, it's, you could train a monkey to fit them in a couple of weeks. And it's no, don't get me wrong, I'll never turn away boiler replacements, but I'm not going out when they're getting another half a dozen people out, because I'm not going to be the cheapest there, because I've got staff to pay. I've got the unit. I've got the showroom. I've got Sharon in the office. I've got Greg in the showroom, and I've got another guy in helping me in the plumbing and heating side of things. So, we have to make a living. We have to make a bit of money, yeah. But we didn't need it. We didn't need that sort of stuff. My phone goes, It just goes, and it's going back to that thing, the fact that the business has been going for that long. We didn't market it like, don't get me wrong, we've done the Google ads and things like that, but I'm not spending any money on marketing. And this is coming into our busy period. If September to Christmas, it's really busy, but we're not spending anything on marketing now. And the phone rings. I'm fortunate in that sense, and the opportunities that we're passing up, because I didn't have the guys to take it on, and I've again tried to find the time to quote a lot of this stuff. It's difficult. Sharon takes care of a lot of the weird stuff. The bigger things I price, but we've got a couple of big jobs on the go now that are quite good jobs, and the bathrooms, we've got a subcontracting team that kind of deals with them, and they're just left to their own devices, and the standards for the boys it's up there with the best. I don't get any problems with them. But I am looking to, I'm actively trying to recruit. I came where I want the business to be, and it's just this thing. I've employed the wrong people, which have had sort of quite a cash.
Costs you a lot of money, doesn't it?
Aye. Pretty much created a lot of problems. I could write a book about the experience I've had with staff, and I just.
It sounds like, we're going down a lot of rabbit holes here, but it sounds like the staff have been, obviously they're so important, right? Of course they are, but it sounds like it's been one of the biggest challenges for you as well throughout the time. Is that fair to say?
It is, aye. It's been one, maybe two. One in particular, and if I could give anybody a bit of advice, if somebody's creating problems within your business, just get rid of them, Just didn't put up with it, because my biggest headaches and probably a lot of the conflicts within my head has come from employing the wrong people. And don't get me wrong, I think going through COVID, you couldn't get guys. And to be fair, the boys that I brought on, they were guys that I knew. So you would expect a bit of a respect there and a bit of, working with each other. And things went okay for a period, but you started to notice things going wrong. And, one particular person, he would stand in front of me, do you not trust your guys? And this is as he's putting trackers out the van, sitting in vans at jobs, having fun time Fridays with the apprentices, just removing copper for sites that he shouldn't have been, and I just
blows your mind, doesn't it?
Just honestly, it was just bonkers when I think back about it. And I was told, I brought in an HR lady to do appraisals with them, and everybody was sat down. She come back, obviously went there, everything with us, and again there was no problems, but when we go into the subject of this particular person, she says,
so roughly when was this? This was during COVID times, was it?
That was last July to August last year. I had 4 guys leave the business.
Right.
4 guys. One of them, I kind of started. This particular person, he was everybody's friend, but he would stab you in the back. As soon as your back was turned. But the one guy who'd been with me for a few years, he'd helped him out a lot, supported him through tough times, gave him extra money, done a lot for him. When one day, I was on the truck, because the vans have got trackers in them, so I was on the map, and I'm like, says to Sharon, what's he doing in Edinburgh? She's like, eh? So I phoned him, I says, what are you doing in Edinburgh? What do you mean, like? I said, well, you're in Edinburgh. I've just done a job for my sister. I says, do you not ken the van? You do ken the van's got trackers on them, aye. I says, all you have to do is ask. And Ken, I'm fair with the guys, Ken, if they ask for a shot of the van, it was never a problem, but just ask.
They're totally oblivious to it, so it's interesting to say that. I used to have a couple of transport businesses that I've exited recently, and we had like 60, 70 vehicles on the road, and they're all trackered, and it was like courier type stuff, and they all knew they were trackered. So one day this guy didn't turn up to work, and we're like, where is this guy? And it was around about Christmas time, and then we noticed in the tracker he's in Wakefield, right? Bear in mind, our stuff was all kind of central belt Scotland, and it turns out we had noticed that it was every weekend this was happening. It was going down there to meet a girl, right? And it's like, this is on company fuel, insurance, vans, and obviously the guy didn't turn up to his work, and I thought this was cool. And it's, again, going back to one of the earlier points you made, running a business, having your own business, you're thinking so differently from somebody who's just there for a job. They're just trying to kind of get away with as much as they can, take a wage at the end of the month. I'm not saying everyone's like that, of course they're not, but it sounds like this guy you had was just taking the mick. Oh,
it was. But the funny thing is that, the week later there was an answer, a message on the answering machine in the office, and Sharon messaged me. She says, "You're not going to believe this." She says, somebody's left a message, seen the van in Edinburgh, and she was wanting a job done. He'd obviously pulled the tracker, thinking he would get away with it, but he's been caught.
Yep.
So, I phoned him. In fact, I put it in the group chat. Says, anybody caught using the van? He's like, that's it. He's done. Next thing, Sharon gets a phone call. I just tell him I'll be away at the end of the week. I was like, that's fine, Ken. That's fine. It didn't harm me. I apologised. But that particular guy, 2 weeks later, I walked off a job. I'd asked him to do something in particular on a job, done the exact opposite. I wasn't happy, obviously. Walked off the job, knew he was leaving me in the shit because he was the only one that had his commercial tickets. And dropped the van off at the unit with pretty much nothing in it. Totally emptied it.
Oh, took all the tools and stuff.
Henry Hoover rolling about the back. But that guy 2 weeks later wanted his job back. So that happened.
It's a small industry though. Like
again, if it is, these people, they just, I think because everybody's desperate to get guys, they're just taking anybody on, and I've kind of learned for that. But we'd had a decent job doing a place in Kirkcaldy, and as I said earlier, there's scrap copper removed, which the boys got the scrap, but this was a different job. This wasn't a domestic job; it was a commercial job. So anyway, I got a phone call for the owner. What happened to the copper? I don't know. In fact, it was an email. So I made a phone call to the guy who was on the job. We always get the copper. I said, you didn't ask for that. Again, that's a different job, different type of work. We weren't the main contractors. There wasn't yours to take. So anyway, he was asked to pay the money back that he got for the copper, and till his days never paid it back. He's not in the business, that was time for him to exit the business, and it came to a head. But he wouldn't pay that back. He never paid it back. And again, this is an adult, a grown man, so and he's not giving a shit about the effects it has on my business for £300.
Yep.
But I paid it back. I paid the money to the person back because I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't embarrass myself like that.
Yeah, and rightly or wrongly, people associate that with you and your business. They don't remember that it was Joe Bloggs. They remember it was Sean Brown, because that's what's on the company, the vans, the name of the business. It wasn't your fault, but you're still there to tidy up the pieces. This guy you're talking about, did he end up taking like staff and with him and stuff laterally, or was this?
No, what had happened was he knew he messed up, and I should have took him for gross misconduct, but he wouldn't have let go. It would have went on for months, and I think he was advised, and we were kind of advised just to try and do it mutually, so we did. But as I say, he said he was going to pay it back. He'd been in touch with the owner of the they weren't going into too much detail with it, but he'd been in touch with the owner and said he was going to pay it back. And the owner ended up getting back in touch with me saying, "No, this guy's he's ignoring me now, and he's not." So I didn't want him to let it go, because people need to be accountable with.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, in hindsight, as I say, I should have took him for gross misconduct. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have left it up to the CEO to try and deal with it and get his money back.
Yep.
I should have dealt with it, and I did. I did pay as soon as I says to him. I says, "Look, if you want me to pay the money back, then I'll do it. It's no problem." And as soon as he said, "I'd like you to do that," the money was transferred and I paid it. But as you say, it's the detrimental effect it had on my business, and it has had an effect. But what had happened was the guy was just, I remember speaking to a previous colleague for the previous work. Where he was, and his words about him was he just wants to see the world burn, and that's the type of person he was. Everything was an issue, again, one of his previous workmates was saying that he would take longer on jobs just so the business would make money.
Wow.
And this was guys that worked on prior to him coming. I knew he was. I've known him for a lot of years, and I should never have took him on, but I kind of thought that he maybe needed a change, maybe he needed a way for that business. But I'm still picking up the pieces 6 months later. Jobs not getting done right, but what had kind of happened was they two boys had left, so I had 4 boys, I think, and sat down with them. I said, "There's been obviously a lot happening the last few weeks, but I'm still doing the same. I'm still trying to get things, still working hard to make this good for everybody, and I appreciate your support and that." And that kind of came what it was like anyway. But I used to go on holiday, but I didn't anymore as much. But I was going to Africa to run an ultra, and I wasn't going to go. But Sean was like, "You need to go. can get a break for it. So hadn't even been away 2 days. I was just sort of in Kenya for 3 days before I went out to do the run. So I'd been in the hotel for 3 days, and I get a message. You're not going to believe this, but 2 of the boys are off sick. So one of the young boys messaged them and says, what's going on? You've left these people. We've took the boiler off the wall, and basically left. He was meant to go back the next day, never went back. So about 2 years later, I get a reply from him. Now, this was somebody that he had an apprenticeship, got let go. I took him on, completed his apprenticeship, kept him on at the back of it. I got a text message from Vans at the unit, keys through the letterbox, cheers for the apprenticeship. And that, as I say, I was about to run it on an ultra. I'm like, for fuck's sake. So that happened. Went and done the ultra. I was out there for 5 days. Come back, so on the Saturday I get a message for Sean, can you give me a phone? Fucking what now? So I was meant to come back the following Wednesday. This was a Saturday. I changed my flights, come back on the Sunday. So I never got him at midnight. I said, look, I'll speak to them on. Wakes up at 5 in the morning on the Monday. I was knackered there, absolutely knackered. Just to let you Kane, one of the other boys is leaving. So I went for pretty much 6 guys to 1 guy.
It's a problem. So you kind of need to be a bit crazy, a bit mental to be a business owner, because this is the sort of stuff, sort of shit you have to deal with all the time, isn't it? Like and it gets actually worse. Well, does it get worse? The bigger you get, the more of this you get. Sometimes you've got a small team, you can control it a bit more, but when you get bigger, again, looking back on my own experiences, we would always have the Monday club, particularly after an Old Firm game. Yeah. You would always have people, drinking Saturday, Sunday, and then obviously hungover Monday, Tuesday. And I don't know if it's getting worse, but even in the 15 years that I've been in business, it feels like it's getting worse. There's this culture of entitlement with some people, and they feel like they can just take days off and they'll still have the job because you need them. You're desperate for people.
This is it. No, this is definitely it. And I remember going back a couple of years, and this one particular person, but I remember that, just the way that they were speaking to the girls in the office and that, and I thought, no, this can't continue. And so I asked them all to come back to the office, and it's a shame because, there's a few of the guys who were going to do their jobs and they were just getting on with their work, but one particular person, so they all came back to the office, and I'm relatively proud of what I had achieved, and when you speak to people, I've seen your vans, and there is a certain amount of pride there. And I remember being outside in the car park and the vans are there, and I was shaking. I was absolutely shaking, and I came in. I says, "Can some boys?" I says, "Really appreciate what you do for me or do for the business. This is a collective thing, and everybody has to have to work and pull their weight in that." I says, "But the way you are speaking to the girls in the office and dealing with things is unacceptable." So one by one, I says, "Go give me your van keys." So you just seen their faces change. One by one, took their van keys. Says, "If you didn't like what I'm doing, boys, there's the door. Fuck off, because I'm not picking up your shite anymore." And not one of them took their van keys back. Sorry, they all took their van keys back. They never went away. So everything goes all right for a period. But there's times that I sat down with them, and one thing I always said to them is, "Look, the door's always open. If there's anything I could do for you, I'll do it." And I still maintain that. Life's hard, and life's hard for everybody. And if I was there to give them support, I would do it, and I would always do what I can for them, which I did. But on the back of that, nobody's there to support me. Not one person's there to support me.
It's a constant theme that I speak to business owners all the time, Sean, and different stages of their journey. They've either start up, middle of the journey, or they've sold, and most people say the same thing. It's a lonely journey because you don't have. It's hard to speak to your best pal about this stuff. It's hard to speak to your missus about this stuff. You don't you can't speak to your competitor because they're a competitor,
Yeah.
although they're in the same position. So it is lonely, and you have to have a certain mindset about you. So there's been all these challenges you've had, and there's thousands more, I'm sure. What's been the biggest kind of successes or wins or things that you enjoy about the business? Because obviously, in 21 years, I know you're a grafter. That's clear to see for everybody. But what's been the stuff that you enjoy and that is good about the business?
Um,
Because we always, and I'm guilty of this, we're all guilty of this, it's easy to focus on the negatives, isn't it?
Oh, I totally agree. It is, and it just for a period there, it just felt like one thing after another, and you're questioning why you're doing it, and I didn't care why I did. Sharon says that at times. I didn't care why you do this because I'm on my own. I stay with a dog, and he gets the brunt of everything.
But he's always happy to see you a bit when he's coming.
Christ, he's brilliant.
Yep.
He's seen me through a bad period, and but I'd gone over the years. When you used to get good feedback, it always sort of made it worthwhile. And even now, when I get feedback for the guys, it's good. It's good to see guys take pride in what they do. I think the fact that we've got customers that I've done work even prior to me to going self-employed that are still coming back. As I said earlier, my phone rings, and it's I take a lot of pride in that. It's good. I didn't have to chase stuff. We've got a database of about 3,000 customers. Not saying they're all actively getting work.
And do you tap into that, or does that just kind of sit in there dormant?
They're sitting dormant because, as I say, we're busy. There's massive opportunities with our business. Massive opportunities, as there is with any business, I guess. But I'm just struggling what to do with it. No, I don't care what to do and where to go. And
at crossroads.
Aye. It's just, as I say, I'm actively looking, and I just need to bide my time. I aim to get to the stage. My ambition was just 5 vans, 6 vans. Currently running 3 now. Get young boys coming into the business. Apprenticeships is a big thing. I was getting that opportunity, and I feel it's always important to try and give back, but that comes with its challenges as well. But it's never, for me, it's fun. Everybody goes, know your numbers, and I didn't get my numbers. As I say, the business is healthy. I speak to, obviously Sean keeps me updated with stuff. I didn't, I'm not constantly looking at my bank account or,
And is that by accident almost that it's cash flowing well and you've got plenty of cash in the bank to pay for things? Is it by accident or is it by design? Or?
It's just gone back to that thing. I've always been a saver, and
right.
I didn't spend money I didn't need to spend. We've no debt in the business. My vans are mine. The rent's relatively low in the unit. The people that are in the business, I believe that they're paid well.
People like stability as well. The fact you've been around for 21 years, like, it's more appealing to somebody to go and work for somebody like yourself who's been around. They know you're not going anywhere. Whereas somebody just starting up, it's a bit more a risk. And you've things like having the showroom in the unit. These are all little extras that your competitors may or may not have, I don't know, but unlikely to have. And it just sets you apart from everyone else.
There's maybe 5 businesses similar size, maybe a wee bit bigger than mine, a wee bit smaller in Kirkcaldy. I wouldn't say I'm in competition with any of them. Everybody's doing their own wee thing. We do everything, and maybe that's why the phone always goes because we'll not just say we're doing boilers, or we're not just doing heat pumps, or we're not just doing bathrooms, or we're not just doing repairs. We're doing everything, and
you've got diversity.
Aye, and there's nothing that I would sort of turn away from.
And you guys just predominantly Fife?
Aye. We didn't venture any further afield because we didn't have to. And the thing is, I used to have customers in Edinburgh, and I think we still service a few boilers over that way. And but there's loads of guys out there. They didn't need to come to Fifers for to get work done. There's a lot of good businesses there that way.
So we've got some like 15 or 16 businesses in the group just now, right? And we own a small percentage of them, and 2 or 3 of the businesses are in the heating and plumbing space. And one of the things, you mentioned this earlier, one of the things that they do to generate work is through LinkedIn. And we were talking just before we hit record here that it's amazing the traction you can get from LinkedIn, but you get more traction from a post of you eating a cake or walking the dog or doing an ultra. So LinkedIn's super powerful. We'll go on to ultras in a little second as well. You don't need to do marketing, but I've seen you active in the past on LinkedIn, very active, which is why I've got to know you actually through your, I wouldn't have known you otherwise. And that's powerful. So is that something you're going to try and get back when the time's right? Is it something you're not too, what would be your advice on LinkedIn socials?
I don't know. It's funny the amount of times that I've sort of, whether I've done a video post or that, and I've actually deleted it in the back of it. And I suppose I have always been self-conscious for as long as I can remember. So that kind of plays a part in it. And even, to be fair, I think I maybe deleted the cake posts. I don't know why, because as I said earlier, there was sort of 4,500 impressions on it. And, if I'll post something about a job I've done, you maybe get 1,000, if that. Yeah. Whereas if I post, Marvin eating my lunch, and, people just, as you say, you're showing who you are and your personality. But I suppose I always wondering if it's professional doing stuff like that. But it's that thing that I'm not needing to prove a point to anybody. I'm not needing to prove myself to anybody. As a person, I wouldn't class myself as I wouldn't class myself as a successful person. But I am, if I think about it, I am successful. If I've done all right in my life. I'm a decent person. I try and help when I can.
But the fact you've employed so many people in the local community, you've done a lot of good servicing work in that community for a lot of good people.
Well, it's funny going back to that, and I couldn't run for a period there, and I was struggling. I was struggling quite a bit, and you do forget who you are and what you've done. And I've done a post, Paul Leishman, the other week there. I started running with Paul on a Saturday, the start of July when I got back. And, I kind of let it all out to him. And he says, you need to remember what you're doing, Sean, and what you've done. And, you run a business, you help the community, you employ people, you run ultras, and you do this. You need to keep on remembering these things. You do these positive things. And I didn't think much about that, to be honest. It's just part and parcel what I do. It's just who I guess I am as a person. And I suppose LinkedIn's a funny thing. It's again, going back to that thing we were talking about earlier, that you engage with certain people and you resonate with certain people, as you were saying, and sometimes these people will do a post and you're totally onto that and you totally get where they're coming from, whereas they'll do someone else, and it's a game of likes. I think LinkedIn is social media, and the more you like other people's, the more they like kind of yours, and I didn't really like to play that game.
It's a good point you make there. So that's something we say to our guys all the time is, don't focus on the metrics or the analytics of your anything you're doing as such on socials. It's more about the consistency, because when someone thinks of what you do, they want to think of you straight away. And if you're consistent in what you do, then you're the first person they think of. So the likes and stuff, I'm the same. We don't focus on the likes or how many impressions. Of course, that's cool if you get it, but don't focus on that, because you can't control that. Mm-hmm. You can only control what you can control, which is posting every day or posting 5 times a week or whatever. And that's what gets you the traction over time, because it compounds. The reason we've grown as a group at Monopoly is because we've had so many consistent messaging constantly, and that's what people resonate with when they think of, buying, selling, growing their business. They automatically think of us, or most people do, and they get in touch. And it's the same with you. I'm sure you might not have a direct example you can give us, but by posting regularly, you'll have people who contact you because of that. Maybe not that exact post, but maybe 2 weeks later.
It's going back to that thing, and Kirkcaldy is a small area, and I've had comments that people, whether I stay right next to a park, and if I've been walking around the park, and people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, I've seen you on LinkedIn, and whether they're going about the dog or what about me, what I'm having for my lunch.
That's a bit of a strange situation, isn't it?
Aye, but it's good. I've probably made some friendships out of it in a sense. It's good to see businesses doing well on the face of it anyway, you know, and you want to see boys do well, you want to see people get on, because going back to that thing, life's hard, business is hard, you want everybody to be alright, yeah.
Absolutely, there's plenty to go around. So you mentioned ultras a few times, and I think this is pretty interesting about you. So I could barely run a 5k without collapsing. So the thought of doing an ultra is just insane to me. So talk to me about that. How did you get into that? Why do you do it? How do you enjoy it? All these sorts of things. Is it something you've always done, running, or is it something?
No, if anybody asks me what I do, my initial answer is I work, and as long as I can remember, I've been doing up houses, as in houses I live in, and houses that I bought to buy that tend to rent out, so the last 5 years have been quite interesting. Decided to get married, grow the business, buy a house that needed renovated, got divorced, went through the challenges with the business, obviously divorce isn't easy, both counts, both of us, and I was just struggling big time. I was struggling. That was sort of early 2022, I think it was. So I decided to get coaching. Stevie Kidd is quite prominent on LinkedIn. But Stevie done an event called Reach Your Peak, which was, we've done coaching, 3 days intensive coaching in the Mart Hall. Then Thursday we went and done the Conic, Ben Nevis, Ben Ime, Cobbler, Ben Lomond, and back to the Conic. So it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. For 31 hours it rained, constant rain, and it wasn't running, it was walking, but it was hard. And I remember going to ground and just going up with Ben Lomond. It was just hard. I went to a place that I've never ever been, and I've never been since. Which I'm kind of still searching for. I'm going back. I want to go back there.
When you say that, what do you mean?
Taking yourself at your limits.
Yeah.
No, taking yourself at your limits. But it was interesting. So I done that. That was October 22, I think it was. Was it 22 or 21? I can't mind. No, it was September. September. So I done that, and I decided to sign up to a marathon in October. So I hadn't really trained for it. I'd done a bit of running, but I hadn't really trained for it. So I done Liverpool Marathon. It was early, it was hard going. So I think it was 4:18 I done it in. Then Tony Wilson and another guy who was getting coaching for Stevie, he says, what you got to do next? I said, I'll maybe do another marathon. He says, well, what about this? So he put this promo video in front of me, and it was a multi-day ultra up in Neudart. So a 3-day event in Neudart. So me and all my wisdom signed up to it, having not done an ultra prior to that. So signed up to it, and
straight in then.
Pretty much straight in, aye. And I kind of surprised myself how well I done on it. Brilliant event. Then 2 weeks later I done Edinburgh Marathon, and I think Edinburgh was 3:23.
Wow.
So I'd only been running maybe, 8 months. But then that was it, that started it. So I started looking at ultras, and that year, I think it was 2022, done Freemar, done Dundee, done Strathmore, signed up to do the lap, which was an ultra, doing lap by Windermere. Then I never really trained. That was when I was going through the divorce. So pretty much for doing the lap to the done Glenorgle, so there was about a month, 5 weeks of difference. I never trained, I never ran. Practically every night for 5 weeks. I was in the house drinking.
Right.
Really low period. But I went and done Glenorgo, and it was hard. Like, it was really hard. But then I signed up to what did I do last year? Done the multi-day, done London Marathon, 3:16 at London. I signed up to a few ultras last year, done them. Had to put out a couple because I got something wrong with me.
Yep.
Coming at this year, I'd planned on doing quite a bit. I went for an MRI in January and I had to go in for an operation. So I had to put out a lot this year. So my first one was back this year, was last week.
Seen that on LinkedIn, yeah. Aye. So how did that go?
It's good, aye. It's really good. I'm on like, when I'm doing them, I want my doing this far.
I suppose that's part of it, isn't it? It's that struggle, and then you get to the end. I mean, I'm guessing here because I've never done it.
It is. Anybody could do it. My sister, Kerry's 52, I think, 53 maybe, and she started running just last year, and she's done half marathons. She's signed up to in Manchester for next year. My niece, she started running. She thinks she's doing an ultra at the end of the year. So, you know, the big thing is I've gone to this. I've always been a bit of a loner. I've always kind of kept myself and kind of think I didn't need people, but we do. We need people. We need connection, and that's what the running's done for me.
Amazing. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that's what the running's done for me. So no, I've got a few things to finish off the year. I've got quite a hard event in December. Then I'm doing a 108 miler in January.
Wow.
So that'll be a hard one.
And you better post that on LinkedIn as well.
Oh, come on, aye.
So that's been brilliant. We'll try and kind of wrap up now, Sean. Aye. So in terms of the future then, so this is always sometimes hard, and it sounds like you've just been kind of, you love grafting, you love working. What's the next project? But if you could try and project 2, 3, 5 years down the line, what does it look like for you? You still going to be in business? Are you looking to build it to a point where you can step back, or I don't know, sell the business? Is there some kind of end goal for you, or you not thought that far ahead?
I don't know. It's kind of selling the business. It's something that's a relatively new thing, and it's probably for senior sell and monopoly. Somebody approached me at the start of the year. So I had a meeting with a guy at the start of the year, wanted to buy the business or wanted to chat about it, and it was that thing, you know, what's it worth and how much you gonna give me for it? And he couldn't say a figure, and I couldn't, you know, I didn't care what it's worth. So I don't know. I'm 48 this year. I've done it for 31 years, as in being a plumber. I didn't care who to sell a business. Obviously, you're the man for that. But it's that thing, where do you go and what do you do and how do you come about it? I suppose everything's got a number, I don't know. You know, I've said it a few times, and I've been renovating my house for the past wee while, and you know, there's a lot of equity in that. Sort of say, you know, whether I sell my house, sell the business in 5 years' time, but again, it's that thing. Somebody has to want to buy my house and somebody has to want to buy my business. Part of me would, I think getting this balance is key. But again, I'd like to try something else eventually. I'd love to take a break. I'd love to take a career break. I can't do that now. I choose not to do that now. But no, you know, again, if somebody chapped my door, I'd probably sell it in the morning. But I
don't say that too loud. They might chap your door after this episode.
I don't know. It's all right now. It's, as I said, when I've not got problem people in the business it runs away fine. I do get a buzz for being busy myself, and it's just when the wrong people create problems. I don't like problems. They can deal with problems at times. But I don't know. I really don't. I just want to be happy.
Yep.
I just want to be happy, and I've not been. I've not been. But I just want to be happy.
It's a combination of things, isn't it? If you've got a business that you're happy with, and you've kind of eliminated as many problems as you have at the same time you're doing your running, and you know, maybe getting abroad more. I know you go on holiday. You're in Ibiza actually a couple of weeks ago. You said you don't go on holidays too much.
I booked it on the Sunday and I went on the Thursday. It's that thing. I want to get back snowboarding. I used to snowboard a lot when I've snowboarded for 5 years, and I loved it. I love being in the mountains. Maybe that's my goal one day, is getting a wee place in the mountains somewhere.
And that's the thing. Selling your business gives you that opportunity. I'm not saying you should do this, but if you have a business, it's generally speaking, for most people that have got one, it's the biggest asset you've got, or could be the biggest asset you've got. Yes, you've got equity in your house. Yes, you might have some savings, in your bank accounts or on the stock market, but your business could be the biggest capital event of your life and many people's lives.
It's the thing is, it's back to that thing. I didn't take what I didn't need at the business. I didn't take unnecessary money. I didn't have I didn't spend a lot. I've got a fancy car. My house is probably the most extravagant thing I've got, but that's kind of came with the renovation and just me putting the work into it. And but equally, my mortgage is quite low because I've never been daft over the years. I've always put money into the right things, and so I've not got a lot of outgoings. The wage I get for the business is fine. I could live quite happily off that, but I don't know. Until it's presented to me, I don't know how I'd react to it. I didn't need a lot to live, and I think that's what I want to get to, is the fact that I didn't need Lambos. Maybe I'll have a Porsche one day, but I generally do not have desires to have these things that didn't matter to me, because they didn't. Just as I say, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy, content.
So this has been really cool, and I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of good insights and real life stories that will actually resonate with them, because everybody that's listening to this that's a business owner will have been through this or going through this currently. So that the stories you've shared, Sean, have been really amazing. So thank you for that. As we wrap up, if anyone wants to get a new bathroom, get their heating and plumbing sorted, or maybe buy your business, how should they get in touch with you?
I suppose, probably, if I don't know, if this is on LinkedIn, I suppose everybody messages on that, or just my email, which is pretty, Sean at seanbrownplumbingandheating.co.uk. No, that's my website, sorry. Trying to take that out. Sean at seanbrownplumbingandheating.
They can put all this in the show notes as well.
.co.uk, aye. Is that, Christ, I should ken it. It's that long. But aye, I'm easily, again, you just put my name into Google or whatever and I come up. Aye, set that code case. But
yeah. Well, Sean, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for coming on, and I look forward to catching up soon again.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.